Let's now talk about systemic functional linguistics and critical discourse analysis. In the beginning, I'll just give a brief synopsis of what systemic functional linguistics is and what are its major aims, objectives, and what or in which way it may possibly be related to critical discourse analysis, or it may help us to conduct this kind of discourse analysis. Systemic functional linguistics is considered to be a part of overall body of linguistics. It's not separate or away from linguistics, rather it's one of the key components of the contemporary linguistic knowledge. It has various linguists in the working in the domain of systemic functional linguistics have devised various tools and complex networks of analyzing various kinds of discourses. And this kind of tools help us not only in critical discourse analysis or in general discourse analysis, but also in various applied studies, including those related to education and communication. It's somehow, as I said earlier, it's not an independent discipline. Rather, it is a part of the larger body of linguistics, and it can very much be coupled with critical discourse analysis. According to many authors and proposers of the theories, it may be related to CDA in order to create a better analysis of socio-political discourse. The theoretical approach in SFL, that is systemic functional linguistics, focuses on the meaning making resources and how these meaning making resources come to us emerge from socio-cultural context, which is very much related to the overall or in general the objectives of critical discourse analysis. Since the earliest manifestation, systemic functional linguistics has been concerned with social action or what people do with the language. It sees how people use or manipulate language in certain socio-cultural or political situations. So how people perform a certain language is also rather the major concern of systemic functional linguistics. It uses the term lexicogrammar, which actually implies that the choice of words or lexes is closely embedded with the choice of grammar in a certain discourse. So grammatical choices are deeply linked with the lexical choices, and they both, when coincide, they generate meanings. The choices are contained in a system of networks. This system is available to us as a speakers in order to make certain meanings, and also as analyst or the students of a certain discourse to uh, to understand and analyze a certain discourse. Unlikely purely formal linguistics or models of linguistics, systemic functional linguistics claims that the semantic networks in which we communicate or we use for the communication, which are social and cultural constructs, and they carry meaning potential. By that we mean that they contain certain meanings which obviously are embedded in the text, but they are unfolded with the help of the context in which those meanings have been generated. Meanings overall, according to this theory, fulfill three uh, components of the semantic system, which we in traditional systemic functional linguistics we call them meta functions, and they comprise three kinds of functions: ideational, interpersonal, and textual. So these meanings are drawn on the basis of language use, how language has been used by a certain speaker in a community. It is also a tenet of systemic functional linguistics that the study of discourse cannot be separated from the study of the grammar that lies behind it. So, generally speaking, or in general terms, we might say that systemic functional linguistics uh, combines both the unconventional discourse studies, which get into socio-contextual meaning, and also the conventional grammatical studies, which focus on the structure also. In systemic functional linguistics, we might lead to to believe that both structure and the social context give us meaning, and they are closely related with each other. And that is the point probably which make us understand that this could be helpful to us in conducting some kind of critical discourse analysis also, because in critical discourse analysis we are also concerned with the generation of meaning in certain socio-cultural contexts, and how the structure is manipulated in order to create certain political or social meanings. It also helps us to explore the socio-cultural settings in which the discourse events take place, and obviously they have a bearing on the meaning. Young and Harrison highlighted the role of language as a social construct. This involves that language constantly affects the making of social events, and in turn, social events constantly affect the making or the use of language in a certain social context. Fairclough has drawn attention to the type of language analysis that could be considered appropriate for critical discourse analysis, and have listed certain questions, approximately 10 questions concerning lexis, grammar, and textual features, including those grammar questions which were closely drawn from systemic functional grammar. So Fairclough has hinted towards the use of systemic functional linguistics for the purpose of critical discourse analysis. One strength of systemic functional linguistics is also that it is concerned with the language within and beyond clause level. That means it picks the instances of authentic language both in written and spoken discourse, and rather than the examples constructed by the linguist himself. Systemic functional linguistics relies on the pieces of language which are authentic, or in other words, taken from the actual use of the language. And another major early contribution of systemic functional linguistics into discourse analysis is also the studies about the cohesion of language, which is very important for the understanding of meaning in a language. There were other studies which were also based on information structure and thematic structures, which overall contribute to the cohesion stuff. So cohesion studies are very important not only in systemic functional linguistics but also in critical discourse analysis. Then there was further works on meaning above clause level, discourse semantics, and they have enriched not only the scope of systemic functional linguistics but has actually made it extremely useful for critical discourse analysis also. For example, the concepts of appraisal and evaluation are very important and can easily be used in critical discourse studies. Appraisal is the way people, speakers or writers express their attitude towards a certain event. This is how they appraise it. And evaluation is a kind of approval, or kind of evaluating a certain proposal. And this kind of evaluation is very critical to critical discourse analysts, because this could be ideational or interpersonal. It could not only highlight the relationship between speaker and other audience or the environment, but also can reflect on certain kind of ideologies which are being projected in a certain communication. So we might conclude that systemic functional linguistics has been used so far in critical discourse studies, and if it is explored further, it may be extremely useful in critical discourse analysis.